Hi, this is Dr. Scott Young, and today we're going to kind of jump into an area. And thank you for joining me live on Twitter or X. Sorry, I'm old school. I said Twitter. Um, we're going to jump into a topic. We're going to talk about why Trump is kind of denying the Epstein files, and we're going to talk about why I would talk about it, and why Congress and Senate is talking about it, and why it's so important. And some of you, it's very important to you. And some people go, why would you talk about it? And here's what I want you to get into. The EBS, or the Emergency Broadcast Signal, or some people will call it the EAS, it is one of the key elements that runs this thing. There are three main issues that we need to have out there. We need to deal with the child trafficking. We need to deal with the election issues. And we need to deal with some of the crazy situations of the world in COVID. So if we deal with those three main issues, we will be dealing with that in the EBS. Well, guess what? Child trafficking, Epstein blows it out of the water. I want to show you search engine conversations. And this is some of the research that I was kind of pulling up here. So when Trump initially was before he was denying it, Epstein searches for most people who were not before people who were not awakened. The minimal searches were around 5 out of every 100 overall. We're talking about overall thing, and when you talk about minimal capability, because most people have been collapsing those kinds of searches. I mean, the absolute search engines, they do not want you to know about this, right? So guess what happens? In there's such a thing as negative searches or negative conversations. So Trump knows this. He's so intelligent when he does this. So I want you to see this, and we're going to show you this kind of conversation. So, as I said on Friday night, aboard Air Force One, to the fake news media, House Republicans should vote on release of the Epstein files. Now, by the way, if you've known anything that he said, he said, well, I don't know anything about the Epstein files that's fake, right? Because we have nothing to hide. He said for over and over again, there's nothing like that, right? And people have said this. It's time to move on from this Democrat hoax perpetrated by the radical left lunatics in order to deflect from the great success of the Republican Party, including our recent victory of the Democrats' shutdown. Oh, we're going to talk about that one in a second. Department of Justice has already turned over tens of thousands of pages to the public on Epstein. Oh, see, he's now talking about it a little bit, right? Blah, 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 blah. And he talks about Republicans get back on point, economy, affordability, blah, 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 right? And then he gets into the landslide election victory. See, he's always on point with getting into different things. Men and women's sports, transgender issues, blah, 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 right? But he says the word Jeffrey Epstein. So when he's not talking about it, he's talking about it, right? So let's show you this. After he kept denying it, right? Over and over. That was more recent conversations, right? When he denied it back in July, denied it actually existed, there was a 1,200 to 1,900% search increase. Do you know that on X, it said hashtag Epstein files or Epstein Trump files? And so people were searching, was he on the Epstein plane? And yes, he was on the Epstein plane one time back in like 2010 or something like that. And it was before any of that circumstance actually occurred. And was he and Mar-a-Lago, were they actually seen together? You can actually see a picture of some of that stuff. And he kicked the sicko out of there. And police investigators, before Epstein was ever arrested, said that Trump was the most helpful of anyone out there to deal with this. Now, see, Now, Trump has done this before because when tariffs were actually beat up by economists, he talks about tariffs over and over again, and he boosted the tariffs searches by 1.4 times. So he's actually done this before. So this is not the first time he's done this. So when he denied it back in July, he boosted it up by 12 to 1900%. Right? Now, and when it declined a little bit back in August, it declined it only declined down to 89%. So it goes from a 1900, we'll just say a top of 1900 down to only 89% searches, but it's still way up from a minimal search. We're talking about 5% search points to 89% search points, right? Okay. Now, it starts spiking a lot more when Congress gets involved. And you have to ask you this question. Why is there, and I could show you a million other things, but why did Elon and Trump fall out together to get, with the Doge thing? And then they patched it up. Why is MTG, why did he say bad things about her? Guys, because she's talking a lot about the Epstein stuff, right? So he does more and more denials here, and the congressional people get involved, and then there's 100% more national search kind of conversations, right? What does it do? It increases the national in the searches, increases the search engines, which pisses the cabal off into a massive level of human trafficking that they have never wanted. So then Trump actually says this. Now the Democrats are using the Epstein hoax. See, he keeps doubling down on this kind of stuff, right? Involving Democrats, not Republicans. Well, okay. Try to deflect from their disastrous shutdown and all of their failures. I will be asking AG Pam Bondi and the Department of Justice, together with the great patriots in the FBI, to investigate Jeffrey Epstein's involvement and relationship with, and I'll show you this one here in a second, Bill Clinton, Summers, Hoffman, JP Morgan Chase. What is one of my things? If you search me on you go to drscottyoung.com and you can kind of see me on X, right? What do I talk about most? End the Fed, end the IRS. He says JP Morgan Chase and many other institutions. Now he's tying Epstein to the banking institutions. Boys and girls, it's going down. This is another Russia. Why is he saying that they could be investigated? He's saying it's a scam, but is it a scam or is it an investigation? He's tying them together, but then I'll show you how this is funny, right? He talks about spend large portion of their time and their life with Epstein and on his island. See, he's messing with them in so many ways. Oh, guys, this is just hysterical. Watch this one. This statement. This was a while before, right? This is right before Charlie Kirk died. If Trump was on Epstein Island, why didn't Biden release that info to stop Trump from being president? Let me tell you this. They tried 3 or 2 separate times to knock Trump out. If they wanted to take him out as president, they easily could. Charlie was 1,000% correct. This would have been the simplest way to impeach and convict him out of his first presidency, to make him be ineligible to run as president again. This would have been the straightforward way to do this. And then to get him be in jail for the rest of his natural born life. They could have gotten everyone involved with him. This would have been the simplest, the most straightforward way to do this. If he was involved, they should have done it. Why? Because he had no involvement with this idiot. But let's talk about a couple conversations within that. So let me show you a little tiny video here, and you'll see some of the conversations that why they're losing their ever-loving mind here. So this is kind of funny. Relates to the shutdown.
Was this a flawed strategy to begin with? The idea of using a shutdown as leverage?
Well, Democrats didn't want this shutdown, but we have values.
Oh, wait, you serious? Let me laugh even harder.
And so if you want Democratic votes for a budget, it has to be a moral budget that doesn't destroy our democracy. The fact
Our moral budget to destroy our democracy. They just keep doing this and they keep destroying themselves, right?
The fact of the matter is, if you don't put constraints on Donald Trump's illegality, this democracy isn't going to be here next November. To a long-term budget that, for instance, fully funds the Department of Justice to engage in a witch hunt operation against Democratic senators.
Huh. Well, that's interesting, right? Fascinating all the way through and through. See, they are scared about the Department of Justice to be against them. Huh. Well, let me just put it to you this way. This is what Elon said about
is the illegal situation.
Yes, I mean there's
Or a focal point.
yes, it's also like it would also be accurate to say that while obviously not everyone who's a Democrat is a criminal, almost everyone who is a criminal is a Democrat. because the Democrats are the soft on crime party. So if you're a criminal, who are you going to vote for?
Right.
I just think that's funny. You guys got to listen to this again.
So that's the root of it all, is the illegal situation.
Yes, I mean there's
Or a focal point.
Yes, it's also like it would also be accurate to say that while obviously not everyone who's a Democrat is a criminal, almost everyone who is a criminal is a Democrat.
Isn't that hysterical? Not everyone who's Democrat is a criminal, but everyone who's a criminal. I'm like, okay, guys, they're kicking their butt every single time they turn around with that kind of thing too. Then he throws out, and he actually threw these people out under the bus with that too. So here's what happens. Barack, and see, this is part of this thing. Barack Obama was one of the worst. He was there, Epstein Island, for the young boys. I saw him many times. I can count, always without his SS detail. Why would he not have the detail? Because he didn't want to be counted, right? With his friends George and Tom, arrogant, drunk on power, slinking to his cabanas with the kids out of his childhood. Dufresne. Who sang this? Diddy. Already convicted. You see, they are so complicit. All of them know it. Okay, let's go a little further here. Schumer got thousands of donations from him. Huh. Well, that's interesting. We know that one from 2019. And then Harvard, the president of Harvard steps down, sorry, I took it off there, steps down amidst ties to the child trafficking network of Epstein. And then he has to actually say it in class.
Regret expressing my shame with respect to what I did in communication with Mr. Epstein, and that I've said that I'm going to step back on public activities but for a time, but I think it's very important to fulfill my teaching obligations.
He's going to keep his teaching obligations. What?
Talk about the material in the class.
But he's going to step down as president, but he's going to keep his teaching obligations. You what? That doesn't even end all of this. Here's actually also what occurred in the same circumstance, and this just came out the other day, right? So this is Plaskett at the same time in 2019.
Incredible. Feeding questions to Virgin Island delegate Stacey Plaskett. In fact, let's dive into their correspondence over at the Wall. This was compiled very well by the Washington Post. On a morning of a hearing where the House was questioning Michael Cohen, Plaskett was communicating with Jeffrey Epstein. To be clear, this is years and years after he was convicted in 2008 of soliciting a money. Get to the meeting. Then we get to her turn. Then we get to the questioning of Cohen. And Epstein tells her, Cohen brought up Rona, keeper of secrets. Plaskett doesn't know who Rona is. You don't know who Rona is. And Rona's in all caps. So Plaskett responds at 2:25 p.m., Rona? Then she says, quick, I'm up next. Is that an acronym? Then finally Epstein responds, that's his assistant. Now listen, this is all of how it played out on text exchange.
Individuals is Miss Rona. What is Miss Rona's?
Rona Graff is Mr. Trump's executive assistant.
And would she be able to corroborate many of the statements that you've made here?
Yes, her office is directly next to his, and she's involved in a lot.
By the way, that all happened real time to this actual statement where they are trying to take out Trump in the same kind of stuff. This is coming out at the same time frame that they're trying to like trap Trump in the Epstein stuff. This, by the way, do you think this is an accident?
Time-stamped right there. In that moment, another text from Epstein. What does he tell Plaskett? Good job.
It's hysterical. Then Plaskett, just the other day, actually has to come up with this statement.
Information, and I was going to get information to get at the truth. Having a friendship with him is not something that I would deem to have. If individuals are not involved in illegal activity, extending his criminal enterprise.
Like, wait a second. He's not involved in illegal activity. That's exactly what he was involved in. This is how crazy these idiots are. They can't even, like, he's 1,000% already been convicted in 2019 of child trafficking. He was already in federal prison once, and a second time. I mean, he once in that time frame, and then he goes to federal prison a little bit later in 2020, I believe it is. And and watch the CNN, the left-wing CNN, and what they actually say to her.
Or his financial enterprise, or all of those things. I think that we need to look at what people are doing moving forward.
Wait, let me just better understand that. What is that point? Because at the time he was a known sex offender and it had been detailed all the sexual abuse.
There are a lot of people who have done a lot of crimes, and as a prosecutor, you get information from people where you can.
Huh? So you get information where you can? You got to be kidding me, right? And then Raskin doubles down on her statement.
A Democratic member for taking a phone call from her constituent, Jeffrey Epstein, in the middle of a hearing. And of course, I don't think there's any rule here against taking phone calls in a hearing.
Wait a second. If there's no problem about taking a phone call, now think about that for a second. I want you to listen to what he said about taking a phone call, right?
They've arraigned a Democratic member for taking a phone call from her constituent, Jeffrey Epstein, in the middle of a hearing. And of course, I don't think there's any rule here against taking phone calls in a hearing.
So then why would the conversation of the Russia scam ever been a problem for Trump? And what they did with Jeffrey Cohen or for Michael Cohen and all the rest of the stuff. You see, the Democrat kind of conversation is exactly, they just keep getting trapped further and further and further. They lose every single time. And Elon actually has some great conversations in here all the way through and through. Is that, and there's a Joe Rogan thing, and I was cutting out videos last night. My wife was listening in the background with this, with Rogan and Elon. Is the Doge thing is going to mess them up further and further. It's actually already done. What you guys are missing is it's starting to actually roll. We thought it was rolling before. Oh, boys and girls, it's actually hitting. It's hitting in the face. It's already hit. See, what you're seeing right now is the operation just coming to light. We thought if you are awakened right now in November of 2025, you thought, well, wait a second. We knew about that stuff back in what, 2019, 2017, right? Or if you were awakened in 2020 to this stuff, or 2023, or whatever that time frame is, and you're going, why isn't it happening? Well, guess what? We're about ready to see it. And it just passed through House, Senate, and is sitting on Trump's desk. And I think he signed it into law, if I remember right. So guess what? The Bondi has like 30 days to like put it out. She says, well, they have new information coming out. Okay, stop. We don't have to have new information coming out. She knows that there's not new information. She's just going to include all kinds of other stuff. And so, see, some people say, well, we don't want to take down government. I knocked over everything. You're probably laughing at me going, what'd you knock over? I knocked over my microphone there. What I want you to understand is everything's coming out. It's going to happen. Thanks so much.